We're going to take a look at this debt reduction financial overview that you received in an email as a thank you for signing up to get one of the Debt Reduction Made Easy informational reports, if you got that, or maybe you purchased Debt Reduction Made Easy, the book, or the video course, wherever you're starting at. Thank you so much for joining what I call the do-it-yourself bailout community, and I want to get you started on this debt reduction financial overview from the perspective of something that I talk about often in the Debt Reduction Made Easy book and the video master course, which is that you must treat debt like a business. Look at yourself as the CEO of the corporation of you. Your goal in this business, you are in business for the purpose of drastically reducing, or even eliminating your debt as quickly and economically as possible so that you can set a foundation of financial health to then start building wealth without debt in your life for yourself and your family and your future. And any CEO, CFO, C-suite executive, anybody who owns a business for the purpose of whatever it is, who is going to negotiate with another party in that business, must treat it like a business, and that starts with the foundation of the finances. Too many people who are in credit card debt and even want to go pursue debt reduction with their banks, or even are just paying it off, making that minimum payment every month, they never do a spreadsheet. They never really take a look at their whole financial life. They just kind of pay here and pay there and never get anywhere. We have to set a target, and we have to work towards that target, which is what we do in the Debt Reduction Made Easy book and video master course. We set a target, we work towards it, and it starts with treating your debt like a business. And the first step of that is really getting clear on what your total credit card debt is and what a reasonable amount to target towards for reduction with your bank is, and how much that's going to cost and how much it's going to take to pay it off, and what those goals are. So that's what we're going to do in this spreadsheet over the next few minutes together. So you'll see on just an Excel spreadsheet here, these areas, the areas that are red and yellow and blue, you can't click in because that's where all the formulations of Excel are in there. So they're all locked off, but you can click in all the white areas to enter your own information. So we're just going to start up here. You will, name this whatever your card account is. I'd probably name it after a bank, but I'm just going to call it my bank one with an account ending in 1234. Say the next one is my bank 2 with an account ending in 9876. Whatever yours are, there's up to 10 accounts that you can put in here. You're going to put in your balance. I've included an old cover sheet that we're just going to use as an example here from a credit card statement. So the balance in this one is 319840, 98.40. So that's the balance on this one. I'm going to make up another card here. Say it's 5546. Just going to round it off and not do decimal. And let's say I have a third account with 1723.4. We'll make that a higher level account, and another account that's got less, 5698. And let's say I have a big account, 27965. So let's say I have 5 credit card accounts that add up. You see it automatically does the calculation here to $60,000, $59,542. You wouldn't be surprised at how many people have 4 or 5 or 6 or 7 credit card accounts, and they know this one has vaguely this on it and this one has vaguely that on it, but they don't really have in front of them the total amount of debt they're in. So this adds it up. Sometimes it can be shocking, like, oh, I can't believe I'm in that much debt. It's more than I thought. Sometimes it can be a relief. You're like, wow, I thought I had much more than that, and it's less than I was anticipating. Either way is okay. The purpose is this is not to feel better or worse about the debt that you're in. It's about becoming more confident as the CEO of the corporation of you to know exactly what your numbers are so you can formulate a plan to reduce them by negotiating with your banks. In the second column, we're going to put in the actual monthly payment. This is what you are actually paying each month, which is often different maybe from the minimum monthly payment, which is going to go into this column. Sometimes if money is coming in well and we're kind of managing our finances, we might pay 2 or 3 or 4 times the minimum monthly payment to pay that credit card down sooner and pay less interest over time. Often, of course, when we're struggling with credit card debt due to a variety of circumstances, the easiest one to talk about these days is COVID, and 40 million people were out of work for 2 years and on unemployment maybe, which was a third or less, a quarter of their regular income. And then we got out of COVID and went back to work, to inflation and interest rates spiking and our credit card interest rates going up. So suddenly we were paying more for the same amount of balance that we had. If you are in a situation like that, which a lot of my readers and clients obviously are, if they're looking for a way to reduce their credit card debt by a lot quickly through negotiating with their bank, they may be just making the minimum monthly payment every month. So we're going to do that for purposes of this example. On this card, the minimum, you can see it here, is $64 a month. So we would say we are making a $64 a month payment on this card, and it's the same as the minimum monthly payment, which is $64 a month. This one at $5,000, let's say we're doing the same, but the minimum monthly payment's twice as much, so we'll call it $128. And that's also what we're paying, $128. And this one at 17, another 3 times that. Let's just call it $500 a month. Sorry, I missed that. $500. And that's the same as the minimum monthly payment. And this one, $5,800, let's also call it about $140 a month. And that's the same as the minimum monthly payment. And this one at $27,000, maybe that one's more like $750 a month. I'm making all the rest of these up, but you get the idea. So it shows here that our total balance is $59,542, and on that we are paying $1,582 a month in minimum monthly payments. It doesn't have to total that up. This is just what the minimum monthly payment is. This is the total of what you're paying. And then over here is this column that says long-term payoff amount at the minimum monthly payment. That is also on your statement. So this law was passed with the 2010 Credit Card Accountability Reduction Act, the Credit Card, C-A-R-D Act, said that each month on your statement, your bank is required to tell you how long it's going to take to pay off your card if you only make the minimum monthly payment, and how long it's going to take to pay, what the payment would be in order for you to pay off your card in 3 years, and the total amount that you will pay to pay off that card at either of those. Prior to this, many banks never shared this information, and people didn't know how to calculate it, and they just kept making the minimum monthly payment without realizing just how much it was going to cost. So in this case, at the minimum monthly payment of $64, you can see that it's going to take 22 years to pay off this $3,198 balance. And at the end of that, it's going to cost $8,697, which is a little less than, but around, looks like 2.5 times, 2.2 times, something like that. I find that at an average interest rate of about 25%, most of the time a good round estimate is that it's going to cost double to pay off your account at the minimum monthly payment. So this one at $3,200, $6,400 would be double. It's a little bit more than that. You can see the difference, just as an example, of paying that $64 a month and having it take 22 years and costing almost $9,000, and actually making that payment of $113, which is a little less than twice the minimum monthly payment, and you can pay it off in 3 years. Look at that difference, and only pay less than $1,000 in interest over that time. What a difference. So if you are not yet at the point in your finances where you're looking to do a negotiated settlement on your account for a lump sum fee, and you still have enough income to make credit card payments and still pay for the rest of your life, I highly recommend making at least that, how much you need to pay it off in 3 years, because look at the difference. $1,000, less than $1,000 in interest versus more than $5,000 in interest, and 19 years sooner. But that's not what we're looking at today. That is a debt reduction strategy, but it's not the strategy we're looking at today. The one we're looking at today is negotiating a settlement on your account. So what we want to do is put in the long-term payoff amount, which in this case, I'm using the minimum monthly payment is $8,697. So I'm going to put that here, $8,697. And for these others, I didn't put in sheets for all of these, actual card statements for all of these. So I'm going to make them up, but I'm going to make them up at double, which is actually a little less than this. So if this one's $5,500, I'm going to call it $11,000, which is a little less than the 2.25 times that this one was. This one's 17. I'm going to call it 35,000. This is how much it would cost to pay off this $17,000 debt at a minimum payment of, say it was $500 for this like 22 years. At the end of it, I think it's going to cost about twice the loaned amount. This one's 5,700, so let's call it 11,400. $500, that's all right. And this one's about 28,000. So let's say that 750 was a minimum monthly payment at whatever the percentage rate is. Again, I'm going to estimate double over those 20 years to pay it off, $56,000. So now you can see if I had statements for all of these and these were all actual, I kind of estimated, but if these were my 5 cards and I owed $60,000 and they're probably all in the 21, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6% range. All credit cards are about that right now, unless you have an old card that you got in at 8%. These are, rough estimates of 2023 credit usage pricing. And I'm making the minimum monthly payment. It's going to take probably close to 20 years for all of them to pay them all off. And when I do, I will have paid $121,000 total. So about twice what I owed in interest over time, over 2 decades at the minimum monthly payment. That may be shocking to look at if you're in this kind of debt, but again, what we're going for here is getting clear on what our situation is. So when we do go to the bank to start negotiating, we know what we're asking for. I believe I have found over my experience in negotiating settlements on I think 8 accounts now with 6 major US banks back after the 2008 market crash, that a good average settlement target amount is 35% of the total. Note here, this is not 35% off, meaning you'd be paying 65% of the total. This is 35% of the total, meaning you're going to save 65% of the debt. I do some calculations in the free report, if you downloaded that, on the 5 fatal mistakes that people make that keep them in debt for years, about the difference between negotiating settlements yourself and using a settlement agency, like a debt relief agency. A debt relief agency will generally tell you that a good target amount is 50% off because their interests are a little bit different than yours. Their interests are to close your account, take the commission, and move on as quickly as possible. You should know if you're considering using a debt relief agency, they don't charge their fee based on how much they save you. They charge their fee based on your total debt. It's usually 20 to 25% of your total debt. So if you were to go to a debt settlement agency with this account, just like this, at $60,000 and they charged 20%, they're going to charge you, what's that, $15,000 as a fee to settle out all of these accounts. So if you paid 50% as a settlement, you'd pay $30,000 and $15,000 to the banks, $30,000 to the banks overall to settle all these, and $15,000 to that relief agency as a fee. You would wind up paying $45,000 to settle out your $60,000 worth of debt, which means you would save $15,000, about 25% total, and you'd be paying about 75% total if you use a debt relief agency, because you can get a 60 to 50% settlement from a bank in a few months, in 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months. And their goal is to close out the account and move on. So they're going to recommend that to you. It might take a year. It took me about 18 months to get all the settlements I needed on 8 accounts that totaled well over $200,000. But when you're negotiating for yourself, your goal is not to move on as quickly as possible. Your goal is to save as much money as possible, which means you can go longer. And when you go longer, you can get lower. And I find that 35% is a good target range in 6 to 12, 6 to 18 months for most accounts, not all accounts, not all banks, but for most accounts. Lower than this, if you really need to get down into the 25, 20, 15% range, that can take much longer, 2, 3 years, and increase the risk of a lawsuit. But 12 to 18 months in the 35% range is a good estimate of where you can settle and not necessarily be taken to court. If you push lower, maybe you will. Again, that's an estimate. Maybe you will, but this is my experience with thousands of people who have read the Do-It-Yourself Bailout and the Debt Reduction Made Easy book and taken the video course. However, you can play with that here. So let's say on this low account of $3,100, the bank really isn't coming down to 35% because it's just so much less money for them on a small account. Let's say they're just not budging off 50% on that low balance account. And on this $5,500 one, let's say they're coming to 40%. It seems like they're about stuck there. But in this $17,000 one, you're going to target 35%. And on this $5,700 one, you're going to target 35%. And let's say on this $27,000 one, you're actually targeting 30%. You're going to push it a little bit on your target. You can see here that your average settlement rate is 36.5% on your total debt, which means it's going to cost $20,000 to settle out all of these accounts at these percentage rates, and you will save $40,000. See, all the calculations are done for you here. At 50%, you save this amount on this account. At 30%, you save $8,300 on your $27,000 account. Oh, that's the target to pay. I apologize. I read down the wrong column. So your payment amount at 50% on $3,200 is $1,600. Your payment amount at 30% on $27,800 is $8,359. And this is the savings over here. You'll save $19,500 on this account and $3,700 on this account, $11,000 on this account. And this is your total savings. So at these percentages on these accounts, your average settlement rate as put in here is 36.5%. You're going to pay $20,000 to settle your $60,000. You've reduced your debt by $40,000 just about. And you've not only saved $39,338 off of your original principal, but you'll have saved $101,000 off the amount that you would have paid had you paid the minimum monthly payment on each of these accounts for 20 years. 20 years from now, you would have spent another $101,000 to get out of debt, compared to negotiating reductions directly with your bank to spend $20,000 instead of $120,000, save $40,000 off the principal balance, save $101,000 in future interest, and be debt-free in 6 to 18 months instead of 20 years. That is the power of negotiating settlement directly with your bank. And when you know all of this, it allows you to get on the phone with any particular bank, and when they make an offer, know where you are in terms of your other accounts. So for instance, let's say this account at $17,000, let's say they're just not coming down to $35,000, that they're only coming down to $40,000, and they're kind of sticking there, and that collection agent is really digging their heels in, and you think, well, I want to take that settlement. The offer's on the table. I don't have an offer on my other accounts yet, but if I take this one, it's going to raise my total cost by about $1,000. See how that happens right there? Right here at 30%, your total cost is $20,780, and at I checked the wrong one there. This one at 35%, your total cost was $20,203, and at 40%, your total cost is $21,065. So it's $800 more. Let's say you've saved a settlement target fund of $20,000. We'll talk about that in a second. I know right now you might be saying, well, if I had $20,000, I would be paying off my $60,000, but just put a pin in that for a moment. Right now, I'm just showing you that if you were to go 5% higher on this account and $20,000 was your target fund, that maybe you would have to then make sure that these came in lower, and you can see how they all balance out. There you go. If I got 33% here and 30% here, a little lower, brings my total percentage down by 1%. And now I'm paying the same amount, but I'm taking that higher settle amount on one to target lower on others. This way, when you're negotiating multiple balances at once and somebody comes down and actually makes an offer that's in your range but not quite there, you can say to yourself, yes, I can take that one that's in my range but not right there, or no, I can't, or I have to adjust another one to see where I'm at. So in Debt Reduction Made Easy and in the Debt Reduction Made Easy video master course, there's a whole section on the top 10 ways to build a settlement target fund from assets you likely already have and don't know. A lot of people get caught up on, where am I going to come up with the money? And I take you through a lot of strategies on how to look at your life and look at where you could come up with money to start settling these target amounts. The full settlement target spreadsheet, which you get when you purchase Debt Reduction Made Easy, the book or the video course, has multiple columns, more than just these columns, that allow you to say, put in a little bit of money over time. Let's say you are working, you're getting a paycheck, and say you're going to put $25 a month towards settling your credit cards. You can then add up the columns and see what that's going to be in a year and a half, and you multiply that by your cards, or maybe you get a little side gig and you see where all that's going to be a year and a half, and you can allocate different assets and see in a spreadsheet, in the calculations, how to actually formulate a plan. Remember, you're the CEO of the corporation of you, engaged in the business of negotiating settlements on your debt, and that comes with a financial plan. It's going to guide you through making a business plan for your debt, and part of that includes building your target fund. So all that's covered in the full Debt Reduction Made Easy book and the full settlement target spreadsheet you get with it and the video course. So go back to debtreductionmadeeasy.com and grab the spreadsheet and the video course, or shoot me an email at Kenny@thedoityourselfbailout.com, and I'll tell you how to grab those. For now, I hope you've enjoyed this video on how to use this debt reduction financial overview, and go ahead, play with it, put in your cards, get out your statements, start being the CEO of the corporation of you, to empower yourself to bring all this information together, to be able to take those steps towards negotiating really drastic reductions on your debt and being debt-free for maybe a third of your total debt balance, saving twice that balance over time in future interest, and being out of debt in a year or so instead of 20. Thanks for spending this time with me, and have an awesome day.